So I made a video maybe a week ago that was called, let me look up the title of it, How We Gain Peace in the Face of Problems, Trials, and Suffering. And I wanted to touch on a little bit more about that. Specifically, towards the end of the video, I said that it's much better to learn how to overcome a potential trial than it is to be delivered out of it. And I wanted to talk a little bit about why that is. So, we have a tendency to view reality and what happens to us in our lives as sort of these discrete, unique events. And in some ways, that's true. You know, you might only have one chance to talk to a specific person, you might never talk to them again. But everything that happens in our lives is a representation or a type or a shadow or a higher level type of example of a general issue that we might face. And so when you're in the midst of a trial and you ask God to take you out of it and to take it away from you, when you ask God, for example, if there's someone who is troubling you, who is abusing you, who is being mean to you, or saying things against you falsely, and you ask God to get rid of that person or get them out of your life or something like that, if He does that, you might feel like that's a great blessing. And if that's all you're willing to receive, maybe it is, because you'll have a momentary decrease in suffering that you might be experiencing. But there's nothing stopping in that situation either that person or a person like them from coming to you and treating you in that same way. And if you're if you've only been taken out of a situation and you didn't learn the tools to deal with it, then instead of uh, no longer being bothered by that kind of thing, instead, anytime you're presented with a challenge that's similar to that, you're going to be in exactly the same state. So, this is why you can't just, when you're like raising kids, for example, you can't just take your kids out of everything that they don't like or that they think is hard, because all you're actually doing is postponing the inevitable date when they're going to have to deal with that without help. And that's not good. So instead, what you should ask for is the wisdom and the strength and the courage and the knowledge necessary to learn how to continue to be in that type of trial or deal with that type of person in this example. And even though you have to deal with them on a daily basis, they can no longer affect you the way that they have been before. And so consider how great of a blessing that would be, because that means that not only do you overcome that situation, and again, in this example, this person no longer has the power to take away your peace, but it means that every similar problem that could ever come to you in all of reality no longer has the way and ability to take away your peace. You literally rise above the level of that challenge. And that's good news. And it's not only do you gain that level of peace, you also gain the ability to show other people how to get that level of peace. So when your friend comes to you and says, "Hey, there's a person at work who just won't leave me alone, who is bothering me and abusing me," you know, you can say, "This is exactly what I did in my situation that's similar. Here's what you can do, and there's no reason that it won't work for you the same way that worked for me." So anytime you earn the ability to get through a trial by becoming what God teaches you to be, you also gain the ability to give and to teach other people the same. And as such, you become sort of a conduit between what God could tell someone and what He has told you, what a person could know, and what God has told you. So that love of God flows from God, and it can come through you, but it can come to that other person too. And maybe if they didn't know you, they wouldn't know who to ask, and they wouldn't have an example, and they wouldn't be able to think about it on their own, and they would never would come to the conclusions that you could share it with them. And that's why it's so important to not only become what God is teaching you, but also to share it with other people. Because who knows what if these people would ever have the opportunity to think about these things in any other way? And wouldn't it be terrible if you found out you were responsible? You were the lifeline God sent to someone, and you didn't take advantage of that. Wouldn't that be a terrible thing to find out? So I hope it's clear why it's better to become strong enough to deal with the trial and to become someone that can sit in the fire and not be burned than it is to have someone put out the fire momentarily by delivering you. One is like being delivered is a momentary piece, but it can't last because that trial will come again in some form. But becoming strong enough to overcome is forever deliverance, because now, even if you're in the midst of it, it can't affect you the way that it used to.